So I'm Elaine Murray and I'm leader of Dumfries and Galloway Council. The Council continues to provide critical services right across the region in response to the coronavirus epidemic. We're updating our social media and our website regularly, but we have a new way of communicating with you. We are going to introduce a series of webinars which will be question and answer led sessions on a number of topics including children and young people, business support, community support and staffing issues. This will be your chance to get answers to the questions which you want to ask. I hope you enjoy taking part in the webinar. By working together, we will defeat COVID-19. Thank you for taking part.
Hello, I'm Boddy and I'm the chair of the Third Sector Dumfries and Galloway's board, an organisation that supports and advises voluntary and charitable organisations in the region, as well as promoting volunteering across Dumfries and Galloway. When COVID-19 arrived in our region, we knew Third Sector Dumfries and Galloway would have to focus a lot of its attention on volunteering. Organisations with existing volunteers required assistance to be able to support those in place. But the scale and challenge of the pandemic also meant many more volunteers would be required for a longer period and in communities right across our region. Our call for volunteers locally and a national campaign helped towards the recruitment of over 2,300 volunteers to respond to COVID-19, which was an unprecedented response and one that everyone can justifiably be proud of. We also helped to reach out to organisations and resilience teams to identify if they needed volunteer support, and to date over 1,000 volunteers have been matched with organisations to support their efforts. But the volunteer effort in Dumfries and Galloway has gone beyond building the capacity of organisations to respond. Individuals have also been matched with volunteer responders to provide basic support, such as delivering groceries, dog walking, or offering a friendly ear for a chat. There have been many examples of good practice, and I know that there will be many more to come in the weeks and months ahead. In the next few short films, we will learn about one of our region's community resilience teams and how volunteers have supported one of our community food providers. I hope you will pick up some ideas from how they have been operating. Third Sector Dumfries and Galloway and Dumfries and Galloway Council are ready to help in any way we can. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Stephen Wiley, Ward Officer for Annandale North, and I'm here with Colin Davidson from Lochmaben Community Council. Colin, can you please introduce yourself and tell me what your role is and what you've been doing?
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Yes, Colin Davidson, that's me. I'm retired now, been retired for about 3 years, working locally in and around Dumfries. The last 9-10 months I've been on Lochmaben Community Council, where I took on the chair role, which at first was rather daunting, but I find it quite interesting now, dealing with various matters and also different personalities. I find I can combine that with my other interests and hobbies, which generally gives me just an insight into what's going on within the community.
That's great, Colin. So, we've got some questions here this morning, and the first one being, can you describe what Lochmaben Community Council Resilience Team does and how it came about?
It came about directly from communication from Dumfries and Galloway Council, suggesting that organisations might want to put together a community resilience plan. As a relatively new community council, there's some existing members on the new team, but many new ones, we thought it would be a good idea to develop a plan which would bring together lots of different information all under one document. Our main aim for that really was to act as a provider of information and to try and disseminate that out to the community through a variety of ways, through social media, but more importantly through hard copies, notice boards and leaflet drops to those people in our community that aren't online. The team was made up mainly from people I know, to be honest with you, on the community council, and also from wider community groups which tend to come together in Lochmaben under the Lochmaben initiative. To be honest, there's a lot of experience there, and everybody had different skills that they could contribute to the plan.
That's great, Colin. What would you say has been your greatest achievement during COVID-19?
That was it's probably a fairly difficult question to answer because there's lots going on, but initially someone had the idea for us to contact all the elderly residents that normally come to our Christmas parties, and we did that by phone, contacting over 200 elderly people, and it was a great way to identify those that may need help or regular contact. From that, we decided that we could put together a leaflet to do a leaflet drop, and we managed to design, get printed by a local business, and then distribute around about 1,200 leaflets. These provided information in the form of local and government helplines. We also featured our main helplines manned by local people that locals could contact and feel they're talking to people they know, and we also listed local businesses that remained open during the current crisis. We felt that was a way to get information out to locals, but also to support the local businesses by encouraging people to use them. We're still actually getting calls on our helpline, so that's something that's been well worth doing, and we still make regular contact with the elderly residents from the initial calls. So I think that was important for those points to be continued.
That's absolutely brilliant, Colin. And challenges, I'm sure there will be a few. What have been the key challenges and how have you overcame them?
Probably the biggest challenge we have is that the community council members' average age is probably over 70, which could be a problem. Certainly it meant that most of us were in the risk category, either through age or health reasons. But having said that, they've all managed to play their part. Communication was difficult because not everybody is online, so whilst we've done a lot through emails, phone calls have played an important part too. So that's probably one of the difficult challenges there. Probably the other thing has been the amount of information that has been sent out to us as a group. Sometimes it can be off-putting when you get lots of legal documents and that type of thing, and it's important to be able to read through these to see what's meant by them. Whilst they're meant well, sometimes they can sort of put people off a little bit from getting involved.
That's great. So, Colin, what do you think the key things that our region can learn from COVID-19 so far?
Well, our experience, I think, is that local communities, certainly in Lochmaben, are alive and well, and seem to be responding very well, even on an individual basis. Whilst the need for formal arrangements is acknowledged from both regional and government level, I think it's important that people realise that local people have common sense and local knowledge to deal with most situations themselves. So I think that's perhaps a key point. The other thing I've got to say is that the support that we as a community council have had from Dumfries and Galloway councils support officers has been invaluable, and we've been able to go to them if we're unsure or unclear about any particular items.
Hi there, we're here with Dooley and Cherie from the Fed Up Coffee, and can you describe what the Fed Up Coffee does and how your organisation is responding to COVID-19?
Sure. The cafe is a fantastic opportunity for volunteers to come on board, but also we provide a meal for the people that are in need. But what is fantastic about the CAF is that we work alongside a lot of organisations, such as the Windy Shop as well. And what they do is they come on board with us and we deliver all the meals to the people out and about in the Stranraer area. We work alongside the Shielding Group as well, and Apex and the Food Bank, which is great.
So volunteers are pretty crucial to your organisation. Can you tell us how people have got involved with Fed Up Coffee's efforts and what you think volunteers are gaining from the response?
I think yes, absolutely. The volunteers are crucial to the CAF. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do at the moment. I really do think the volunteers have really stepped up the mark on this. They are fantastic. They really are. And of course, they've come to us just as working front of house as well. And then now when the COVID-19 came into place, the whole dynamic of the cafe had to change. Completely change. And it's been a fantastic experience. But I think Julie will probably be the best one to...
Yeah, well, I was employed as engagement officer at the start of the COVID-19, but obviously that happened, so I was deployed down to the cafe, and I've been working in different areas of the cafe, from prepping up the meals, or giving hot meal out during the day, the nutritional value that goes into the meal, just meeting people, getting to work in different areas, front of shop as well, because we provide a wee area that people can come up and pick up a hot meal if they want it. So it's been very interesting, and it's really nice actually out meeting the community as well. Maybe under different circumstances it would be better, but it's still nice to be able to meet people and speak to them, ask how they are on a daily basis.
Okay, and what are you most proud of in relation to your response to COVID-19?
I am so proud in the fact that the cafe has gone from actually providing 50 meals a day from when we were all open to now up to 190 meals. I mean, that is it's just madness of how it's just developed, and the cafe's just going stronger and stronger. And how it's adapted is just brilliant. It really is. I'm actually, very proud. Very proud to work in it.
We've got a really good positive effect from actually being out, because I actually delivered as well to begin with, and see the people actually in the community, they're so grateful for actually getting something hot to eat, plus better contact with other people as well, because maybe sometimes you're the only people you see like in the day, plus if they've got any maybe problems or that, we can put them in contact, and if we can't help we can put them in contact with somebody that maybe can carry on.
So yes, you've been getting really good feedback from
yes,
the community.
definitely, really positive.
And I think it just shows how the cafe can actually show its potential. I really do, and it's just going to grow and grow. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, they seem to love it, to be fair. There's a lot. I mean, it's not just in our area, because there's some people out at Cllr as well, so it kind of travels, and they've really kind of upped their numbers, so it's really nice.
That's great. So you're talking about all the positives. There's obviously been some challenges along the way. It's something that none of us were prepared for, I suppose, at the beginning. So what have there been? What challenges have there been, and what's the kind of biggest nightmare you've had, and how did you overcome it?
To be honest with you, we've been really lucky. We've not had any nightmares at all. We've had a few challenges. Of course, it's from the 50 meals a day to nearly 190 meals. How are we going to cater for that many people? And people were still coming through saying, is it possible if you could help us? We're self-isolating, and it's just trying to think, right, okay, how are we going to deliver all of these meals? How are we going to organise all the delivery team? How is it going to all flow? Because we're also delivering food parcels as well, working with the Shielding Group, as I mentioned earlier, and it's organising all of that. And the delivery people have been fantastic. They really have. And with their split into teams, and they have their own agenda and their own delivery sheet, and off they go. It's been great.
It's been good interaction with them as well, because the guys seem to, the guys that's actually were delivering from the radio shop know quite a few of their addresses, so we can actually work out how it's the best to kind of operate within one another to get the meals and maybe the shopping out together. So it works, so we're all running back together. So you're using it as a big set. It's really, everybody's really happy with it, to be fair. And it makes everybody come together, to be fair, and work as like a they're a good team anyway, but it's really nice.
So what do you think our region can learn from COVID-19?
I think the biggest thing to say is you need to work together. Really work together. Each organisation needs to work together so we can cater and we can support everyone who has a need. We do the meals, someone else could do the shopping, someone else could do something else, but to work together and to communicate together, I think is really, really important. And just help each other wherever we can. Like working with the radio shop as well, I think is really good, but other organisations as well, because you would find that working alongside these organisations and actually going out to these people, you're actually meeting people that wouldn't necessarily ask for help. So I think, in a way, it's great, but just work all together.
It seems to have a more positive effect with everybody working together and giving a bit of their insight into different areas, because we don't always work in the same area. So somebody bringing some information in can help make it quicker, easier, and just more viable to work with, to be fair.
So if you could offer any guidance, hints or tips to other organisations providing food for the community within our region, what would they be?
I think again is to work together as a whole, but listen to the people as well. Listen to what they need and to what they want, and always be supportive, always. But yeah, definitely just the biggest thing is just work all together. You just make it run a lot smoother.
Yeah, because we're finding as well, not everybody kind of wants to phone up, but if you've got like somebody at point of contact, it's talking during the day. There was a guy we had that didn't actually want to have his name on the list for a meal, but we could see that he needed the meal. So I think if you kind of could read the person a wee bit and have some kind of communication with them, they're more apt to come out and talk to you about things like that, so you can reach them further.
Great.
Absolutely, and I also think that the CAF, the Fed Up CAF as a whole, delivering these meals to people, these people don't see anybody. And in a way we can still kind of tackle that loneliness, because they look forward to seeing the delivery drivers. It's that friendly face, and it's such a hard time at the moment, and people are really struggling. And I think just having a meal delivered, knowing that there's help there, really does help. I really do.
Great, and thank you all for your hard work and effort. And have you got anything else you'd like to say before we finish up?
Just to say thank you to everybody who is, helping all of the NHS, all of everybody as a whole, key workers, everybody. Just carry on doing a good work, and I'm sure it's absolutely appreciated.
I'd like to welcome Chris from Cllr Home Development Trust, who's the Food Share Coordinator in Upper Nithsdale. Hiya Chris.
Hiya.
Can you tell us a bit more about the work of the community food sharing in Upper Nithsdale?
Well, the Food Share project started before COVID, and it looked very different then to what it is now. But what happened is that we get a share through KKDT funding. We get food share from I'm going to ooh and ah.
Fair share.
From Fair Share, and we share that with the community. We have 4 spokes here, and they would all get their own share to distribute by themselves, and we would have 2 shares here to distribute with the community. We did that from December until March, and then the COVID hit the town, as it were.
Yep.
And we had to change things up a little bit.
So what has the community and volunteer response been like in Upper Nithsdale to Fair Share and Food Share?
It's been incredible. I mean, there was a willingness to start this food sharing project for a year plus before December 19, and so people were working hard in the community to get this started, to get the commitment from people, to get the commitment from the community, and to get the funding to make it happen. So there's been this long-term view about sharing food in the community, and it's not just ever been about food, it's been about sharing time, sharing energy, sharing skills, sharing what we have with the rest of our community. So food is just a starting point, and always has been.
Yeah, of course, it is just a starting point.
Yeah.
In terms of the response to COVID, how has the food share changed?
It's changed dramatically. For some volunteers, obviously they had to isolate right at the beginning. We had a lot of the volunteers that were here had underlying health conditions, so almost immediately the volunteer base was decimated. That was a challenge in itself. How could we go forward? Could we go forward? What would we do? What would be our role? But very quickly it became obvious that our role was still a role in which we could share food, but we would have to coordinate that with the whole resilience effort, and so that's what happened. Food share became part of the resilience effort, and then volunteers came through the community, through the street volunteers that were willing to help in their own streets and beyond, and it's become a huge movement of volunteers who are willing to do just about anything to look after their community.
Yep, Chris in the food share volunteering army. It's been amazing. It really has been amazing. Have you found responding to COVID-19 difficult?
It's been challenging, but it's not been difficult. You question everything that you do. There's massive changes almost every day. We're having to respond to distancing. We're having to respond to all the rules. We're having to check one another. We're having to check everybody else. People come wandering in here sometimes, and you think, "Oh my God, you're not allowed in here." We're so protective of the rules and the way things are in this environment that it's quite difficult to go outside, in actual fact. So you feel quite protected working here because we are obeying the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. You must be really proud of the community that surrounds the food share here. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I can't begin to tell you how proud I am of this community. I'm going to get emotional.
That's all right. That's all right.
I feel that I'm part of this community, and I'm over the border in Ayrshire, but people have responded here. May have to start that back again.
No, you're absolutely fine.
People have.
Want me to start it again?
Oh no,
No.
Pull myself together. But
you've got to make me great here.
They'll just edit it. I hope they'll just edit it. I'm incredibly proud of it. It goes with everything that food share stands for. Food share stands for sharing, and it's a two-way thing. It's not a one-way thing. It's not about food share giving food. It's about food share sharing their share of food with everyone in the hope that everyone shares with everyone else. So it's not about food share. It's about the community and how we share things. So now we're sharing food, we're sharing jigsaws, we're sharing books, we're sharing stories, we're sharing art, we're sharing gardens. We have plans to share so much more in this community. There has been more good than bad come out of this, and I know it's difficult for people. I'm not undermining that by any stretch of the imagination, but so much good has come from this. We had a little competition the other week in which we asked people what's the best thing about the lockdown, and people kind of looked at me as if I was daft. There's nothing good about the lockdown. But actually people were coming back with, I'm loving the peace and quiet, I'm loving feeling safe in my own home because I feel protected, I'm loving my time with the family, I'm loving that dads are getting time with their kids. People are taking so much out of this experience that it's overwhelming.
It really is.
It is overwhelming.
I'd like to ask you about the check and chat. I know locally and up on this deal it's going down a storm, but it'd be good if we could share that with other communities across Dumfries and Galloway.
Absolutely, and beyond. I think we've hit on something here with the check and chat, and it's a very simple idea. It was just, we know that the elderly and vulnerable in our community might not have access to simple things like the shops and the surgery and getting their prescriptions and all these kinds of practical things. But we were worried in our community about old people and vulnerable people who were on their own at a time when they couldn't be anything else. They had to be on their own. So we developed a visit, if you like, and an excuse to visit was that we'd take an afternoon tea or a light lunch and say, you know, this is from Foodshare and is everything else all right? So that's all it was, and at first we had maybe 30 names, and then, you know, people were catching on and thinking, well, I know Mrs. Such and Such down the road and she doesn't have anybody and their family are away in, you know, Abu Dhabi or wherever. You know, the people are realising that there are people in their communities that they don't have very much to do with. Some of the names come up and you know, people are going, well, I didn't know that person was still alive. You know, it was quite shocking. And so we're becoming more and more aware of the people in our community who are still out there but very quietly existing without help, and it's been an absolute joy. It's been an absolute joy to do it. It's been an absolute joy for the delivery drivers to go out and have a few words. Some of our delivery drivers have taken their kids, all tooled up with their gloves and everything, to lay down their package and just say hello. And you can imagine what elderly people think of that if they're on their own. They're absolutely delighted. So going forward, we've already been asked by lots of them, is this going to continue to happen? The drivers are all on board, the bakers are all on board, everybody's on board for this to continue, and I think it's a fantastic thing. We've gone out to them and we found out that's how we get to them. It's not that you lay on things and you wait for the elderly to come to you. We've gone out and we've chapped our door, and that's been the biggest help that it possibly could be. Absolutely, and I know locally those that are in receipt of those parcels are delighted and extremely grateful. They really are. They feel cared about. They do. They feel loved in their community, and from a distance. It's great. It's great to see. So final one, what do you think your organisation will take forward from the experience of COVID-19? What have you learned that you can use in the future? I think what we've learned is that lots and lots and lots of things. I mean, you learn something every single day, and I know that sounds a bit of a cliche, but you absolutely do. You learn about yourself, you learn about the people around about you, you learn about fear, you learn about that connection between fear and food, and that it's not always connected with need, and it's not always connected with greed. It's more about fear. People are frightened of what's going to happen in the future, so they gather in and they hoard and they think they need, but in actual fact it's much more scary to think about what might happen, because it's that fear of the unknown. The unknown, absolutely. So going forward, I think this community is in great condition. I think we know that we care about one another. I think we trust one another a lot more, and I think we can only build on that to create a much better community in Upper Nithsdale. Absolutely, I'd echo that. A very resilient community who have come together to look after their own. Absolutely. So on behalf of myself, Chris, on behalf of Dumfries and Galloway Council and the Community Support Cell, I'd like to say a big massive thank you to you and your wonderful army of volunteers. We really appreciate it, and I know that the community of Upper Nithsdale really appreciate that too. Thanks, Chris. I'll share that with the rest of the volunteers. Please do, but not just food sharing, the thank you sharing as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Right. Good morning, Helen. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview for us and answer a few questions with regards to your service and the food train and the delivery that you do. So it's just starting off, the food train's response to the COVID-19 has been phenomenal. How has your organisation found it so far?
It's been a challenge, to be honest. The demand for the service has increased. It's probably doubled actually over the past 2 months for the shopping service. So we've found that a challenge, but we've risen to that challenge and we've met demand. We haven't refused anybody the service. We've had to put other services on hold for the time being, but we'll just have to continue to do that until we get through this period.
Yep. So the operation of the food train is no mean feat. So you've just explained there some of the ways that you've adapted to meet the demand locally. Do you see this continuing in the future?
To meet demand locally, we've changed how we run the operation. We've had to introduce evening shopping. Instead of just doing the shopping in the mornings, we're doing it in the evenings for the next day as well. And we've introduced card payments for the customers so that we can make it easier for them to make payment for the shopping.
Brilliant. Volunteers are the lifeblood of many organisations in Dumfries and Galloway. It has been challenging to get sufficient volunteers to meet the demand locally. Has it been challenging for you to get the sufficient numbers of volunteers?
We put out an appeal on social media probably the middle to the end of March, when a lot of our current volunteers had to shield, and the response has been quite remarkable. It's been overwhelming. It's been great. You know, the support from local people has been great. We might find ourselves losing some of these people as they start to go back to work, and we're hoping that the existing volunteers that we had who are shielding will come back to us.
Brilliant. How do you think the volunteers themselves have found it?
I think they found it rewarding. I would hope they find it rewarding. It's hard work. It's hard work. We've had to change how we do the shopping. We're socially distancing in the shops. We're asking people to wear masks and gloves. So it's a change for people, but they've stepped up to the mark.
Brilliant. Food Train has been long established. Do you think the organisation has learned much from the COVID situation? And do you think the organisation will take anything forward that has been learned for the future?
I would think that we'll try to have as big a pool of volunteers as possible going forward. There's a fine balance between having too many volunteers and not having enough. We need to keep people busy. We need to ensure that we use the people that come forward. So that might be a lesson learned, to have hopefully a larger age range of volunteers.
Okay. Have you had much feedback from the individuals that your organisation has been supporting?
The customers have been delighted with the service. They appreciate that people are putting themselves at risks to deliver the service, and we're trying to keep in contact with the customers as much as possible. So we've introduced new telephone support calls as well on a regular basis.
Great. And what advice would you give anybody who is considering to do volunteering within Dumfries and Galloway, or in fact just to come and help at the food train? Yeah.
I would say just get in touch with your local office and do it. It's great, it's very rewarding, it's great to feel part of a team, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, hello there, I'm Councillor Andy Ferguson, the Chair of the Dumfries and Galloway Council's Communities Committee. Although not always in the spotlight, unlike our tremendous NHS and medical staff and frontline workers and carers, at a national and local level, volunteers have been at the very forefront of the response to COVID-19. Here in Dumfries and Galloway, volunteers support our communities all year round and have done so for many years. And in recent times, the Council has increased the engagement with local communities and volunteers, and have empowered those communities and volunteers to develop the places where they live. It was these community conversations that have established some trusted relationships, and when you combine this with the tremendous volunteer capacity in the region, it has ensured that our region's resilience in response to the pandemic. Our council as an organisation is learning so much from the response to COVID-19. As we continue to respond and as our region recovers, I want to assure you that our communities and the volunteers will be at the heart of the conversations about how we restart our region and then support individual communities. But for now, having seen so many stories of how organisations and individuals have adapted and responded to ensure our region's most vulnerable people are supported, it is truly humbling. And I just want to say a huge well done and thank you to everyone.